In this step, we're going to be fixing the user information for our tweets here. So right now, everything is being attributed to Luca, but that's only because we've set her as the static mock data for the application. So let's fix that. The component we're interested in is the tweet. So we're going to go into source components and we're going to open up our tweet component. And we're being provided the tweet now from the feed, right? So for each of these, we have a tweet, and all of these are being passed down. And so this user, instead of using this hard-coded data, right, we need to actually fetch the user who actually said the tweet. And so once again, to do that, we basically need to connect this component, and then we're going to change the data we need based on the tweet. And so the first thing we need to do, though, is we need to create a model for the user so we can actually fetch it from the server. So we're going to go into the command line, and I'm going to say lore generate model user. And now that we have that, we can reference it. So now I'm going to say lore.connect. I'm going to pass in get state and props. Move our component down, and then we're going to enclose that at the bottom. And then I'm going to return the user is what we're looking for. And once again, we're going to invoke state. So now the question is, what do we need to reference, right? What piece of state are we looking for? So if we flip back to our application and we open up the developer tools, I'm going to clear the console. And let's examine one more time lore.store, right? So this is the Redux store. So I'm going to say get state. And so since we've got two models, you can see that we have tweet and user. So this is all the data we have for tweet and all the data we have for users. And if we open these up, you can see that both of them have the same three subsets of state, right? And so one of these that we're interested in right now is user.byId. So we don't have any users, but if we did, we'd be able to look in this and get the user with that ID. So if we look at tweet, though, as we've fetched 5 tweets already, if we open up by ID, you can see that we have the IDs of the 5 tweets that we've fetched. So the piece of state that we're interested in is user.byId. So in our application, we're going to say user.byId, as that's the reducer state. And what we need to pass into this is the ID that we're looking for, right? So what is the user ID that we want to fetch? And in this case, we're going to get that from the tweet. So if we flip back to our feed, you can see in our feed we have this render tweet method, and we're passing in the tweet to this component. So we're going to go back into our tweet component. So all we're doing is we're just wrapping this tweet. So we have the ability to inspect these props as they go into the tweet. So props here is actually going to contain that tweet, right? So we'll have access to the tweet through props.tweet, and then the tweet itself. Now we just need to know where do we get the ID of the user. So for that, let's flip over to our API, and we're going to examine our data structure, and we'll notice that there is a property called user. And so tweets has a data field and user, and the ID of that is the ID of the user who said the tweet. So back in our component, we're going to say tweet.data.user, and that's the ID we're looking for. So if we save this, we're going to go back to our application, close the developer tools, and refresh the page. And there you go. Now we have this tweet being attributed to Frog, and this one's attributed to Marl, and we have something that was said by Robo. And so we have a nice mix of all of the characters. So once again, we didn't actually have to write any actions or reducers. We just had to create a model, and the framework understood how to fetch that data and store it and provide it to the components. So as a last cleanup step now, since we're not actually using our default data, we can actually go through and we can just get rid of these getDefaultProp functions, right? So they were just there for mock data. Then let's go back to our feed component, and we can also get rid of our getDefaultProps for our feed component, right? And so now if we refresh the page, you'll notice that we're still fetching our data. So this flow is also really nice. It's really useful in that you can easily mock out your application with static data using getDefaultProps. And then as you connect to your components and you get real data, you just delete the mock data you had and you don't have to change anything else.